Fresh and Buds.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh. You guys can call me Tom, you can call me Fresh, you can call me whatever you dang well please. You guys are all my buds. We got a great episode for you this week. I, as you probably have guessed from the title of the episode, I built a cube, and we're going to go into what a cube is and what goes into my cube, and this is going to be obviously a flesh and blood cube. The Magic the Gathering community enjoys their cubes, but we're gonna get into it in flesh and blood. I know some other people have built some as well, but I'm gonna talk about my theory behind on what would make a good flesh and blood cube, and talk about mine, and it should be a lot of fun. But before that, I want to go over some things and kind of hang out, catch up. First of all, I want to shout out the Discord, the Buds. We've been playing a lot of games on there. If anybody's interested, it is linked in my Linktree. We have a lot of fun down there. You know, we talk about anything from limited to food to blitz to classic constructed to just anything that's going on. And it's a great group over there, and it's fun to play some games over there. We do webcam games and tabletop simulator. Actually, I haven't started that yet, but I do want to learn. We're going to get there eventually. It is daunting for me, but we're going to get there. And so I want to talk a little bit about some news that's happened that we haven't really discussed on the pod lately. First of all, Welcome to Wraith. It's going out of print. The third set in the past couple months here to go out of print. I think most of us saw this coming after the announcement of Crucible of War and then Arcane Rising, which I don't even know if we went over the Arcane Rising go out of print on the pod, but that went out of print as well. Now, this doesn't mean that it's out of stock. I know my LGS still has both of these products, or all three of these products laying around, just waiting, kind of the last of their stock. So you can always check in on your LGS to see if they have it. Some people may have increased the price on it. What I've seen is probably usually going around from like 100 to maybe like 120. So definitely check that out if you're interested in picking up some soon to be out of print or currently out of print cards. And there's some great staples in Welcome to Wraith and Arcane Rising, such as the Arcanite Skullcap and Grasp of the Arknight in Arcane Rising, and then obviously Spring Tunic in Welcome to Wraith, and some other great stuff there too. Enlightened Strike, Enlightened Strike was in Welcome to Wraith, and Art of War and Command and Conquer were in Arcane Rising. So these are some pretty intense generic staples. Now we will see what Everfest brings for us in February. We already know Arcanite Skullcap's going to be reprinted. It remains to be seen if we see some other generic reprints. And I mean, I'd like to see some. I already have my play sets, but obviously, as a big Flesh and Blood fan, and I want more people to play, I think it would be great if more people had access to the cards. And I believe that LSS has that in store, whether it's in Everfest or further down the line. So that will be pretty exciting. But something that they announced alongside of the Welcome to Wraith out of print announcement is a cool little tournament. It's a farewell to Welcome to Wraith, which I feel like it should have just been shortened to Farewell to Wraith, but I guess we're not technically leaving Wraith. So farewell to Welcome to Wraith is going to be a one weekend event where you draft Welcome to Wraith, and then everybody gets a cold foil young hero from that set, which is really awesome. I don't think at all. Like, I don't know if anybody has gotten those yet. I'm not sure. I wasn't playing during Welcome to Wraith's release, but that's really cool. So it seems to be 16 event cap, or at least 16 young heroes. I guess some stores could run larger events, and then the top 16 get the heroes. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be, I think, at the end of January, the weekend before Everfest comes out. So that's something to look forward to. I'm going to try to play one. Yeah, that should be really cool. And, I personally would love to get a cold foil young hero. That'd be awesome. And also, I think they announced that in each of their major markets, there will be one random alpha box given away. I wasn't entirely clear on like what that means. I guess like they just pick a random winner of those drafts, and then I guess they send you an alpha box, which would be, I mean, amazing. Whoever wins that, it's so I guess it was the Europe, North America, and then the Southern Hemisphere countries and markets will all get one, and then I think one store at random will get one as well. Who knows what that means? I mean, that's pretty crazy. The alpha welcome to Wraith is is pretty dang expensive. So that's a great prize to win. So hopefully somebody, maybe one of you buds gets one. If you do, let me know, and we'll talk about it. That'd be great. Maybe I'll get it. Who knows? I play a lot of Levia, whichever you call it. And, I obviously, I'm used to bad luck, so some good luck every once in a while would be great. So, some other news. It looks like we do have an announcement next week on an update on card legality. Now, that just means it's just a scheduled announcement that it could be no changes at all. Something could get banned. Something could get, I guess, restricted in a way. Something could get unbanned. We can get Seeds of Agony back. I doubt that's happening, though. That would be pretty funny. I mean, not really that funny, but that would be pretty interesting to happen. Now, I personally don't think there's any bans that need to happen. We will see if that is the case. I could see some maybe erratas, kind of. I mean, there's a lot of talk about erratas in Flesh and Blood. It's tough to do in a print only game like Flesh and Blood, cardboard only. So I'm doubtful that LSS would try that. At that point, it's almost just better to ban the card. Some people are talking about Red Plunder Run. Some people are talking about the way Briar's abilities work. Obviously, all the talk is about Briar because the Briar percentages of the field in all the most of the nationals tournaments was pretty intense. So as we went over, I think a couple weeks ago. Now it is interesting to think about what they could do, but in reality, I do think that we're not going to see any changes, and I could be wrong, and if I am, I will pretend like I didn't say that, and I'll pretend that I knew what was going on the whole time. No, kidding. And yeah, so that'll be interesting. That we'll get that announcement before next week's episode. So we will keep an eye on that, and then something leaked. It seems that we're going to get a Proquest season. So it looks like they sent out the Proquest season to some LGSs, and some just posted it because they wanted to schedule their event. So you can even go on Flesh and Blood's event locator right now, and you can find some Proquests that are already scheduled. So it looks like it's going to run from, I think, just after Everfest is launched into March. So like a little bit over a month of Proquest tournaments. They look to be being run in all different kinds of LGSs. So that's exciting. That means that we're getting ready for Pro Tour number 1 of 2022. I think we have 2 Pro Tours, probably split up in the year. So and I imagine one will be on the Eastern Hemisphere, and then one will be on the Western Hemisphere. We will see how that kind of pans out, but that's very exciting. Finally some, though not official announcement for pro play or organized play. It is definitely happening because the events are scheduled on Flesh and Blood's website. So I even looked up some, and I got two very close to me that I hope to be participating in, and I will obviously be letting all of you know how that goes, if it goes well, and if it goes poorly, I will also let you know. So that's very exciting. This is something I think a lot of people have been waiting for. I know I have. Even the talks on Twitter have been kind of, I think even Tarek Patel, the winner of the U.S. Nationals, was he posted a meme of the come on, do something, in terms of, and I think he had both Magic and Flesh and Blood on there. But come on, we know, Tarek, that your heart lies with Flesh and Blood at this point. It's gotta, right? It's gotta. But so that's exciting. And I also, I think I gave a quick shout out to the Arcbound Geek Pietro for winning the Italian Nationals with Kano, which was very exciting. I got to sit in on a conversation with Pietro and a bud, Farsis or Cardboard Flesh and Blood from Instagram, and that was very fun. We got to hear his thought processes on there, and whenever that's posted, I'll make sure that I post that as well. And it was definitely interesting to get his perspective on things, and he is someone that has actually made me kind of confident in the no changes happening to card legality. So he sat down and he's like, hey, listen, I mean, Kano can go toe to toe with Breyer and win, and he proved that. So it does break things a lot, break things open in a meta when someone can do that. So congrats to Pietro, if I hadn't said it already. That was pretty awesome. He's a really cool guy, and you should check out his content on YouTube, the Arcbound Geek. He's a very cool guy, very nice guy, and he makes great content for Flesh and Blood in both English and Italian. I can speak. I'm having a tough time with English. So that was really cool to talk to Pietro a little bit, and whenever that's posted, I'll make sure I repost it on Twitter, which is FreshBudsPod at Twitter, at FreshBudsPod on Twitter. But let's get into a crack-a-pack of Tales of Aria Unlimited before we talk about Cube. So let's get this pack open. That one sounded good. Now, I will say these unlimited packs are really interesting. So it's a different printer than they had for first edition. It is now I've noticed that the card quality is actually a little bit better, and also the foils look incredible. This is hopefully this is kind of where LSS is going with their unlimited printings going forward. I know that we have the paper packaging in for Everfest first edition. So let's go through these. We'll talk about it as if we were drafting, which I did another draft on Monday at an armory, which was a lot of fun. I got my cold foil cracked bauble, which was sweet. All right, first out of the pack. So this is interesting. The order of the cards in Unlimited is different than first edition, but because we have our equipment first. This is Sutcliffe's Suede Hides. This is the Runeblade legs. You can pop it to give something go again if you had played a non-attack action that's turn. This is a great card in Briar. I would be happy taking this. I don't know if I'd take it first pick. It's just a little hard to commit to Briar that early. But if you know you're in Briar, this is a great piece of equipment to have. It is at a premium for Briar, I think. Here's another card that I think is good in Briar and our boy Oldham is the Red Burgeoning. I like this card. Good rate, 2 for 6. Only blocks for 2, which is, not the greatest, but it does come in for 7 if it played from Arsenal, which, is a great rate. And I'd probably be on that right away. Next we have Shock Striker, yellow. This is it's a 4 attack, 2 defense, once per turn, instant. You can pay 2, and it gains, if it hits a hero, deal 1 damage to them. Not a bad card. I prefer the red, obviously. The yellow isn't the worst, but it's not exactly where I want to start. And that's definitely, has nothing to do with the fact that I usually force Oldham, but that's neither here nor there. Next we got the Red Rejuvenate. Not thrilled with this card. I don't even think I've ever played it in a game. This is a 1-cost elemental action. Gain 3 life. If you have fuse this turn, you may play it as though we're an instant. It's fine. It doesn't feel like that's what you want to do in any of the hero decks of this limited format. But I guess if you need a playable, it can be fun. Next we have the Red Heaven's Claws. This is a 1-costed 5 attack lightning action. It does block for 3. This is a great fuse card. It's great in Lexi's arsenal to give something the next thing go again, which could be the Heaven's Claws. I think this is another solid spot to start. I'm still burgeoning over Heaven's Claws, but I would go burgeoning then Heaven's Claws. Now it looks like we have some rares. First we have the yellow Embolden. This is the Guardian attack, or a Guardian action aura. It's a 4-costed aura. Blocks for 3. If it enters the arena, if you control another non-token aura, draw a card. Hard to make work in limited. I don't even know if it's really makes, I don't know if it could really make any waves in constructed either. But not really thrilled with this compared to the other auras in the set. It's a little overcosted. 4 is a little bit too much. So not crazy about Embolden. This is rare. That'll go in the giveaway pile. Next we have Blue Weave Earth, which is a 0-costed Earth action. Next Earth or Elemental attack action, you play this turn, gains +1. If it was fused, it gains +2. Now I do really like this card, and I'm gonna say why, because of the foil that's next. I really like Weave Earth because Weave Earth Blue, because it is a blue Earth pitch for Oldham, which is great. Obviously, prevent that too. And also when you need it, you can pump up the next card, which is Thump, which is my favorite finisher in this format. This is the 4-costed, this is the red one, 4-costed 6 attack Guardian attack action, 3 defense. And if its base attack, or if its attack is greater than its base attack, it gains Dominate. And if it hits a hero, they discard a card. I mean, this is brutal when you can get a pump on there. And one of the best ways to do it in the format is Crackerjack. So if you're in Guardian, you have at least 1 Thump, or if you're in Guardian, you see the Crackerjacks, take it, and then you can kind of prioritize Thumps as they kind of wheel around the table. If you don't really have anything to pump it, it's really not that great. It still blocks for 3, which is not that terrible. So it's a very pretty foil, though. It's really cool. You kind of get the sun in the background shining. I'll go in the giveaway pile too. Next we got Rites of Replenishment Red. This is a solid Briar card. This is the 2-costed 6 attack, 3 defense. It has Earth Fusion. When you attack with it, if you have dealt arcane damage this turn, you may put a non-attack action card from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. And when you attack, if it was fused, you may put an attack action card from your graveyard on the bottom of the deck. So nice little thing to play, especially when you're in the Oldham matchup where they're trying to fatigue you out. And on rate, it's pretty good. Throw that right there. Next, we got a blue Snow Under. I don't hate the Snow Under card, but it's just really not where I want to be. But I do like the blue one because it is a 3-cost card, so it's 5 attack, 3 defense. So it is a good thing to pitch to your hammer, which will give it the +1. Next, Chilling Ice Vein. This is the yellow one. It's the 1-costed 4 attack, 3 defense arrow. Has Ice Fusion, and whenever attack deals damage to a hero this turn, they discard a card unless they pay 1. If you're in Ice Lexi, it's pretty solid. The red one's obviously better. I think Lexi in general wants a lot of red arrows, but if you can reliably fuse this, it's not the worst option. This next card is a real all-star. Bramble Spark. Obviously, 0 cost, elemental Runeblade action, has Earth Fusion. The next attack action card you play this turn gains when you attack with this card, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero. And if it was fused, the next attack action card you play gains +3, which this card is just an all-star. I wouldn't fault you for taking that first ever, because then you can get a really good start into Briar. Into Briar. Though I think I'm on Weave Earth because I'm just a sucker for Oldhim, and I think that's a good Oldhim card. Next is Entwine Lightning. This is a really solid one. 0 cost, 4 attack. And this is the red one. Lightning Fusion. If it was fused, it gains Go again. Bread and butter in either Briar or Lexi. Emerging Avalanche. Not a huge fan of this one. This is a 2-costed. This is one of the other auras. This is a Elemental Guardian attack action aura. Blocks for 3, not too bad. If it was fused, you create a Frostbite token, and it's Ice Fuse, obviously, Frostbite token, and then your next turn it pops, and your next attack is +1. Good with thumps, but this is not the best one. I prefer the I forget the name of the Earth Fusion one, but that one is a little bit better in my opinion. Next we have Frazzle, which is the 1 cost. This is the yellow 1 cost, 4 attack, 3 defense, Lightning Fusion arrow. If it was fused, whenever attack would deal damage this turn, instead it deals that much damage +1. These arrows are all kind of dependent on how well you can fuse, especially if they're not the red ones. Obviously, if you're in the red ones are kind of good on their base, but these yellows and blues kind of depend if you can really fuse them, because you can sneak in some extra damage with your Shiver, with the Dominator, the +1. So yeah, so that was a crack pack. I'll put the rares and the foil in the giveaway pile, and we'll move on to, let me throw these over here. Let me take a nice sip of water over here before we continue with the main event here. So, as the title of the podcast suggests, I did build a cube. Now, what is a cube, you might be asking? If you don't know what a cube is, it's a way to do drafts. So we did just kind of talk about some limited stuff right there. So drafting, if you don't know what that is, that's where 8 players typically sit at a table. They each have 3 packs. They open the first one. They pick a card, pass it to the left until that whole pack is gone. So everybody's been passing to the left of that first pack they open. Crack the second pack, take one, pass it to the right. Do that until that's gone. Third pack, crack it, pass it back to the left. Do that till that's gone. And during the whole time, you're trying to build a deck. And in Flesh and Blood, when you do that, you're pivoting. You're trying to pigeonhole yourself into a certain hero. So you're taking certain hero cards. As I discussed with that crack a pack. So playing traditional draft is great. I love playing, cracking some packs and doing it. But cube draft is a casual TCG format where, like, when a player, who is myself, creates a cube, which is a large pool of cards selected for the purposes of playing a limited game. So in Flesh and Blood, I had to decide how to do that best. In Magic, where cube draft is very popular, you have 5 colors no matter what. So it is always going to be able to support all 5 colors. Now with Flesh and Blood, that's a little bit different. So typically a cube is 360 cards minimum. So that would be 3 15-card packs per person at an 8-player table. Some cubes in the other game that shall but not be named, even though I already named it, can go even higher. They can even double that. I think some can go all the way up to 720, so that kind of you can get different experiences each time you do the cube. If because you're shuffling it all up, and you get a little bit, it's like sometimes a certain combo piece is in one draft and it wasn't in the last. Now, when I was thinking about building this cube, I thought that, you know what, first of all, the card pool in Flesh and Blood right now wouldn't be able to support that. Anything more than 360. I think you got to keep it as tight as possible. Essentially because if you put more cards in it than would be in a single draft, you can lose certain class cards for the heroes. So that would make a certain hero just not as strong, and you don't want that. You kind of want everybody playing a hero to the strongest of how they drafted that hero. So I guess before we dive into my cube, talk a little bit my history with cubing. So I have always been a huge limited player with that previous game that I had mentioned. Love drafts, love sealed. I think it's one of the best ways to play a collectible card game, and I will stand by that. I think it not only is it it changes, the experience changes every time you play, just because no two decks are ever going to be the same, and also I think because of that the on the field experiences are changing, and the decisions are so much more intricate and not as streamlined and on rails. So I used to play a lot of limited, so then I got into cubes, and I didn't know what a cube was. I heard about it at first, and let me take a sip here. I heard about it at first, and I was like, oh, what's this? What's a cube? Is this like some kind of, made up thing? And it wasn't. I mean, I was just being closed-minded. And then I got to play in a cube, and it was so cool. You got to play with all the cards that you love from Constructed, but you're drafting them. So that was a huge draw for me when I first sat down to do a cube. So I would play it a lot. I had a friend who had one. We would play, whenever we can get 6 to 8 people, and then on certain digital, I guess clients would be the word, they would put a cube out, every couple times a year, and that would be a ton of fun, and you get to see a cube that like has these cards that maybe your buddy wouldn't have afforded for a cube anyway. So you're playing with certain $30,000 cards, and you're playing them on an online thing, and you get to really experience what it's like to play with those cards, which was really cool. And then I decided I wanted to build a cube in that game, but of course I had to make it hard for myself, and I decided I'm going to build there's 5 colors in that game, and one of the colors was red, and I really like red cards, so I was like, I'm going to build a mono red cube, and it was all red cards, and it was very thematic, and I think it was a lot of fun. I wish I got to play it a little bit more with people, but life happens, and people don't play games as much, and people move away, so it just kind of went the way of the dinosaur. And then that's when I found Flesh and Blood, and I was playing constructed Flesh and Blood. I was like, oh, I wonder how limited it is in Flesh and Blood, and it's really good. And I was like, oh my god, I think somebody should make a cube. And I had seen some other people make one, and I hadn't really looked into what they did, so I did want to sit down and kind of theorize, because I have this podcast. I think it's a great thing to talk about. I wanted to theorize about how it would work and if it could work. So I sat down and did it. And, you know, this is kind of where I came to with it. So I do think you can do it in Flesh and Blood, and I did build one, so I hope it works. I'm hoping to play it this weekend at PAX Unplugged. I didn't mention that at the beginning of the show, but I'll be at PAX Unplugged. If you're listening to it before and you're going to be there, definitely hit me up. I'll post something on Twitter as well. But so here is where I came to a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A plan for this cube. So I looked at the core products of Flesh and Blood Limited before we got into talents. So that's Welcome to Wraith and Arcane Rising. So the structure of those are 4 heroes, with, you know, half of the pack, or almost half of the pack, I guess maybe more like 30% of the pack is generics, and then the rest of the pack is, you know, outside of rares and stuff, is the class cards. So when you draft those sets, you know, you can pick generics first before you kind of really settle in on which hero you want to do. And usually a table can support 2 heroes, or 2 people per hero. Sometimes it's 3, and then, you know, another one is like a little bit less. And then we've seen even in Tales of Aria, sometimes you can get 4 people on 1 hero, and then, you know, 2 and 2. But so I had to come up with a way that, how do I support the same kind of experience that Arcane Rising and Welcome to Wraith brought for a limited environment? And so I was like, all right, 4 heroes. Now, do I just do all 4 heroes from one set? I thought about that, but I didn't want to I wanted to give a different experience than maybe you got when you drafted Welcome to Wraith, or than you got when you drafted Arcane Rising. So I picked 2 from each. From Welcome to Wraith, I picked my boy Rhinar, because I think that's a pretty straightforward. And here's another thing. I wanted to make sure all 4 heroes kind of had different feels. I think Rhinar was the big beefy guy, obviously. And then I picked Dorinthia. You know, this is the weapon hero through and through. And then from Arcane Rising, I went with the crowd favorite Azalea, who is, I actually think, really does shine in a limited environment. So I think she deserves some love, and I wanted to put her in the cube and see how that goes. And obviously, this is very, very much the initial draft, and we will see how it goes. And obviously, it will change as more product is released. You know, I'm sure Everfest is going to change this cube up quite a bit. And then the last one, I wanted to go Viserai. So, first of all, Viserai is the easiest Rune Blade to deal with, I think. You can add in sideboard options for Viserai into a cube that you know, people can start picking up if they decide not to be Viserai. Obviously, when you sit down with this cube, I'll tell each person, hey, listen, it's Viserai, Dorinthia, Rhinar, and Azalea. You got to keep that in mind, you know. So maybe if you're in Dorinthia and you get a pack and you see a Null Rune hood, maybe you pick it up, you know, which is in the cube, by the way. All the Null Runes are. You kind of have to. So those are the 4 that I went with, and I think another reason I picked them is you need enough cards to support, I think, 2 solid decks each, or 3 to 4ish milder ones. I think you can have like 1 strong and 2 mild heroes in this cube. So I was like, all right, so what would be the minimum amount of class cards that you got to have? I was like, probably like 60 cards with the generic kind of support. I think you can easily get, so maybe like 20-20-20 split between players with 10-10-10 on generics. So I looked at a bunch of different heroes. Obviously, Kano and Katsu were kind of out of the question, because really you only have one ninja printing if you don't count Crucible, and the same with Wizard. So the card pool isn't that large. Obviously, Runeblade has gotten a lot of help. Viserai was an obvious choice. Dorinthia has her cards. She has cards from Crucible, and then she got a few cards from Monarch with our boy, what's his name? Sir Bolton. I don't know why I forgot it. And then, Rhinar, we got same thing with Levia. And then Azalea, we got some help from the Lexi printings. So, and then I was deciding, and this is actually something that I didn't even, the next thing is something I didn't even think about until I started typing out my list, which I'm going to share in the show notes. It will be there. I have a Google Sheet stock that people can look at. It's pretty straightforward. The kind of one column is the class, name of the card, and then it'll be a check on whether it's blue, yellow, red, and then or an equipment / weapon. And for all the cards that have a blue, yellow, and red version, so all the rares and commons, I do one of each. That's what I do. This is a singleton cube. So far, this is how I wanted to start it. So, and then I had to think about, all right, well, I'm putting weapons in here. So, like, for example, for Rhinar, I put Mandible Claws in there, which will be kind of one card. Because obviously, if you pick one Mandible Claw, you can't wait for the second Mandible Claw. So they're both stuffed into one sleeve. So you pick Mandible Claws, you get both of them. And obviously, I have those in there, but I was like, oh, what if somebody picks brute cards and then doesn't manage to grab the Mandible Claws, the Ravenous Meat Axe, or the Romping Club? So I was like, oh, I'll just take out the Romping Club, and that will be like a guaranteed weapon if you go that way. So I have that off to the side with the young heroes for the people who draft. And I think that's probably the best way to do it. So it gives people an option to try to pick the cool weapons with the fallback plan of just, I'll get the Romping Club anyway. That's fine. That'll work out for the deck anyway. So, yeah. So it's an all singleton cube. And we have 360 cards and some standouts. So, like, basically, right now, I have almost every single printing of the class cards that have been printed. I think I had to cut some Runeblade cards because they just weren't that good. So what was the point of putting them in there? And there's just been so many printings of Runeblade cards. So I don't have the full Runeblade suite, maybe just missing like two different cards. I think I have every single warrior card. Now these are all non-talented. I don't have any of the light warrior cards, and the same with the Runeblade stuff with like Elemental and Shadow. I don't have those in there. And the brute cards, no Shadow. And obviously the same thing with Ranger. So these are all singletons. Then it came down to what generics, because there is quite a bit of generics that I could put in there, but I ended up not. I had to choose which ones I wanted to put in there. So basically, I put almost every single super, majestic, legendary in there. So we got I'm using proxies. Proxies are okay, especially for the legendaries. So like the Arcanite Skullcap and the Fyendal Spring Tunic, even though I own them, I have them proxied in there. And the same with all the legendaries for the classes, except for Skullbone Crosswrap. I think for obvious reasons that card hasn't really spiked much, so and it was just sitting in my binder, and I was like, yeah, I'll just throw it in there. And it is a really cool looking card. So yeah, for the generics, I kind of put every single legendary. I decided to put a suite of null runes, the robe, gloves, hood, boots. I did the suite of iron rot. I decided against whatever the other one was from Monarch. I feel like it had another iron name. I didn't go with that. I threw the scalers in there, time skippers, Hope Merchant's Hood, Heart and Cross Strap. You know, some really good utilization cards. And then for the generic like commons and rares, I wanted to only put cards that really would be bread and butter for these other decks that would make sense in these other decks. You put like Zealous Belting, Snatch, Slogism, Sink Below, Pummel, Plunder Run, just stuff that could kind of help every kind of deck in a way. So I did throw those in there. I think Rifting is actually a really sweet card that I had never gotten to play with because I didn't really get to draft Arcane Rising. So I wanted to throw that in there. And then for the Ranger, obviously the Ranger only has one other straight Ranger weapon, and that's the Redliner. So, the Ranger players will be fighting for that. I think, though. I think the Death Dealers is fine because that will be off to the side for them. The Ranger cards are pretty straightforward. Everything you kind of expect. I don't think I cut a single Ranger card. I do you'll see in the list if you go take a look. In Brute, I have all Brute cards, and then I threw the Gambler's Gloves into the Brute section because it's essentially a Brute card, but I do have it labeled as generic. If people are going, to look at it in a deep kind of way, it is still generic, but it is in the Brute section because it is a Brute card. Though it would be a cool card to hate draft, I would say. If you think somebody at the table has the scab skin leathers and you want to mess with them. So, Brute's cool. It's interesting to see, as I test this, how the commons and uncommons that like the blues and yellows that aren't exactly 6 power or more play out. But I think it will work out. You'll find the balance. The real question is how are all the yellows in this cube going to play out? Because yellows seem to be the cards that you don't really want to take in limited. You want the blues and the reds, but I think this will kind of create an environment that is like truly limited in the terms of like you have to like create a deck with the best deck you can do with what you've got. So I do enjoy that aspect of this. I'm excited to try it out. I'm hoping to try it out at PAX Unplugged this weekend. Some concerns that I have with this cube, and you might have the same if you look at it, is Runeblade is very supported. I think Runeblade has the most cards. And, I think that is because Runeblade has had the most printings. And obviously it's LSS's favorite hero type. So we'll see if I need to cut back on any of the Runeblade cards. Maybe in favor of some more generics. But I guess for the sake of the podcast, I should say each if you don't know, the Dawn Blade, because it's not in the file. So Dawn Blade would be the weapon that you automatically get with Dorinthia, Romping Club for Rhinar, Death Dealer for Azalea, and a Nebula Blade for Viscerai. So those are the automatic cards. Like if you're drafting like you would in a normal draft, like essentially the token card. So, you know, that's something, if you decide to build this cube, which it would be cool, obviously do your own thing. I think I would love to see some other people's takes on cube. But if you decide to do it in this style, you know, I think before you sit down with everybody, it's like, listen, these are the 4 heroes. These are the 4 weapons you automatically get. There are other weapons in this cube. Feel free to draft them. But if you don't get them, that's okay, because you're gonna have a weapon regardless, and they're all totally fine options for each hero. Especially, I mean, like Dawnblade. I mean, that's a whole different deck anyway. But you know, the axes are in there, and the Centauri sabers. So it is kind of cool. So if you get the axes, you can kind of prioritize getting the spill blood or spoils of war. I forget which one buffs your axes, which would be completely useless if you don't have the axes. So don't pick that card without the axes, unless you want to pick it early and aim for the axes, I would say. So yeah, that is kind of the overview of this cube. I'm going to try it out this weekend. Hopefully it plays out like I'm hoping it will. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to even just cubing in general again. This is you know, the fresh fab cube, as you'll see at the top of the file. And yeah, I obviously a lot of the things are proxied. Some things that I don't own, like the Arknight Shard and the Eye of Ophidium. Cards like that, the Fabled, I don't own them, so I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna buy them for the cube, especially if like those cards aren't even good enough for the cube. So proxying is okay. Obviously, you know, if you want the cards, and they are very expensive cards, so I don't even know if I would trust them in the hands of people. So yeah, so all the legendaries, even the ones I own, are proxied as well. As I said before, other than the Skullbone cross wraps. So yeah, that's the cube. And yeah, please check it out. Let me know what you think. I'll give an update on it in the next episode or two on if I played it and how it went, and I'll be posting about it on Twitter as well, so you guys can always check that out. And as the plan going forward is to make updates to this cube as the card pool gets larger. I mean, I think Everfest is going to change this cube dramatically. As I said earlier, I think that we're going to get hopefully a bunch of different specializations, and some good class cards that, you know, once that happens, you know, so this is the base. That's the point where I can start taking some things out and adding them for each hero. So, you know, if I find that certain cards aren't really cutting the mustard? Either way, if I find certain cards aren't really performing the way I want to, I can start adding in those, whether it's the red, yellow, and blue, or maybe I find that maybe the yellow of a certain card isn't worth it, so I take that out and maybe pop in, you know, a red of something else. And yeah, I think this is a really exciting thing to do. Hopefully, you know, I can continue to grow it and hopefully play with some people at maybe some callings next year, and maybe after I scrub out some Proquest or something like that, you know, we'll get it going. But yeah, so yeah, definitely let me know. You can always at me on Twitter, at FreshBudsPod. You can email the show at freshbudspod@gmail.com. And yeah, I'd like to discuss cubing in general with anybody. So this is something I'm really passionate about, and I hopefully, you know, you guys found it interesting. And you know, if you never want me to talk about cube again, I got bad news for you, because this is my podcast and I do what I want. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. You know, check out the Discord. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe, like, This is all audio, so I mean, I'm a big audio guy, so I like, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. If you can leave a review, that's cool. If not, just enjoy and hopefully keep listening. And definitely. And then check out the Discord and let's have a great week. And I'm gonna have hopefully a good weekend at PAX Unplugged. But before I go, I want to talk a little food as I usually do. I was toying with what kind of food I wanted to talk about, and I was having a tough time figuring out exactly because I haven't had any like crazy good food lately. Just been so busy, a lot of struggle meals as it were. But I want to talk about cheese. I love cheese, so I wanted to give my top 5 cheeses of all time. This is my top 5. It's my opinion. Even though it is the right opinion, you guys are all entitled to your own. I'm going to start at number 5. Mozzarella. Mozzarella. This cheese, we all know and love, whether it's a string cheese or it's on a pizza or on a sandwich. I mean, I love, and shouts to Garbage Andy. He posted a picture of a nice New York City sandwich that had that nice thick piece of fresh mutts on it with the salami on there. That's just exactly where I want to be. Where even when it's just like almost like a little cloud, right? You biting into it. It's a nice mild cheese. It's not it's not gonna really take over the flavors of other things. Mozzarella, I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, mozzarella sticks. I mean, it's a mainstay on the American restaurant menus. Now, I don't know about all the buds abroad, but mozzarella sticks over here, they're going crazy. You should really look into it. And hopefully, it's a global thing. I don't know. Could be, could not be. Number 4 is another Italian cheese, ricotta, or as the people here in New Jersey like to say, ricotta. So ricotta is like a soft cheese. Throw it on like a white pie, or not. A white pizza. I'm so used to calling pizza pies here in the Northeast, but yeah, throw it on a good white pizza. You can get in the calzone. You can even use it to fill. I mean, it's traditionally that's what you use to fill cannolis, which is one of the greatest desserts of all time. So ricotta is super. It just adds to whatever. Sometimes when we have pasta here at Casa de Fresh, you throw that like red sauce in there, and you just take a scoop of the ricotta. You gotta mix it in, melts a little bit. My Lanta, that cheese is delicious, but it's only number 4. There's 3 cheeses that I find better than ricotta. Number 3, cheddar. I mean, what is there to say about cheddar that hasn't already been said? Cheddar is an American mainstay. It is the perfect amount of sharp. Also, it's not it's not like a stinky cheese or anything like that. It's just got this really great sharp flavor. It melts pretty well. You can throw it on a burger. It's cheese and crackers. I mean, you cut up your Vermont Cabot cheddar with the crackers. I mean, that's a snack for the ages. Let's be real. I mean, this cheddar is just an all timer. It's the gold standard. Just because it's the gold standard doesn't mean it's my favorite, but I had to throw it on the list. And I think 3 is a respectable ranking for cheddar. Number 2, now number 1 and 2 were actually really close because I really love both these cheeses with all my heart, with all my arteries too. I had to edge out one because I had to think about what could I not live with anymore, and I don't think I could live without either of them, but if it really had to come down to the choice, I made this choice. So number 2, feta. This is one of my favorite cheeses. It's a sheep's milk based cheese, so it's a little bit different than your cow's milk based cheeses. It's got a nice saltiness, man. It's good on Greek food, good on Middle Eastern food too. You can even get some great Lebanese fetas sometimes. They're so creamy, and you get the really crumbly ones too. I put it on every salad I ever make. If I'm having a salad, you can rest assured that feta is going to be on that salad. I love feta. It is so good. I have this tin. That's not a tin. I have this tub of Dodani, I believe is how it's pronounced. Feta. It's like in a brine, and sometimes I'll just go in with a fork and just break off a piece and just eat a nice big chunk of feta. Like, this is how much I love that cheese. It is so good. It is just absolutely. I mean, however, it doesn't have a lot of versatility. I will say that. I think it's kind of a one-trick pony, though. It can go well with some fruit salads sometimes too, like a watermelon and feta. It's pretty nice. However, I had to give number one to blue cheese, and I'm saying all varieties here. I'm going to gorgonzola to your typical blue to Stilton. I don't know what it is about blue cheese. I'm obsessed. I have it's a problem. Blue cheese is just my favorite, and I'm sorry that some people don't like it, but it makes me live. I open up the fridge and I see some blue cheese. I'm like, okay, I'm happy I'm on this earth. It's that good. It's got that almost like funky sharpness to it, with this like creaminess too, that really just like it'll cool off your buffalo wings. You can put it on a burger with like some mushrooms, and like, wow. And it pairs so well with like a wine or a really nice dark beer. Man, blue is just amazing. It really is good, and it's my number one spot. So, call in with your favorite cheeses. The lines are open on Twitter and the email, I guess. So let me know how you feel about those top 5 cheeses of mine, and I will tell you how wrong you are, unless it's the same top 5 as me. So that's going to do it for the show. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope you check out the Cube. Let me know how it is. And I hope everybody stays fresh. See ya.